Chicago said so-and-so won the presidential election, and he didn't win. So everybody thought he was the president for a while. And I was like, wait a minute, this isn't true.
Well,
What's going on?
It just was upsetting because he's not the one who, had to spend days, wiring all the equipment up, okay? He's not the one that got all the different apps up, because we're on, your show, my show. As you know, I'm a very, I don't want to sound conceited, but, I've been very giving to all the hosts that's on the network. I don't really ask anything from anybody other than doing a good show. And I mentored everybody virtually that's on my network and helped them, to have a good show. And you know that. And
yeah, I know that. Listen, you've been on the air, I don't know, 14, 15 months. I remember I started listening to you and following you about a year ago. I remember when you were just small, had a few listeners, and I could watch you. I wish I had one of them time-lapse cameras because you've grown in a year that is incredible. Your listenerships in your studio and the equipment and the money. Yeah, I know all the blood and sweat and tears you put into it because I've watched it for a year.
Oh, yeah.
And then, I joined the team in December 8th. So, yeah, I've been following you even before I even came on the network with my own show.
Oh, yeah.
So I get it.
And I just want to do a shout out to Nicole Beach. I want to George, to Terry, to even you, James, and Fred, and Neil, and
Karen.
Neiman, and all these other people are listening. But it just was a big slap in my face because there's been a couple of the hosts on there. It didn't even have the money to buy equipment, and you know what? I had no problem sending equipment. To some of the other hosts because
right.
to make their show sound good. I mean, you can't do a talk show on a cell phone, which some people think you can. But I mean, I went out of my own pocket because I knew they didn't have the money, but they had a good concept for a show, and I sent them the equipment to be able to do their show. I have never tried to take advantage of anybody other than trying to help people. And, again, I worked hard to get these radio stations, okay? I'm working hard to get more stations. I have an agent, Larry Hagelin. I just want to say thank you, Larry, because he's putting in a lot of effort for very little bit of money to get us stations because he believes in what I'm doing. I don't want to do a talk show like a lot of talk shows. I do my show like if the guest is my friend and we're talking in the living room and just enjoying doing the show. And that's how I like doing it. And that's probably why it's growing. But to have somebody, it's just like, somebody was never in the military, and I was. But somebody was in the military, right? And all of a sudden puts on a chief petty officer uniform or some type of uniform, right? And goes parading around with the wrong badges and implying, well, hey, I'm a veteran and a war hero when they were never in the military. It's the same thing. I feel like when I did all this hard work and all the expenses, okay? They're not the ones that had to eat beans and hot dogs for 2 weeks in a row to buy a new piece of equipment. I sure did a couple times. And to have somebody sit there, and I don't know why somebody would do that other than I hear that they're going to another, so-called station, which doesn't have anywhere near the listenership I have. And, it tried to steal away as many people as they could. Because also I've heard from a lot of people that he's been raiding their Facebook friends.
Oh, wow. And, I want to say one thing, too. People don't realize you watched a lot of live so-called shows on the internet, and that's a whole nother category by itself. But anyway, I thank you for giving me the opportunity. You must have seen something in me. I sure appreciate it. I'm totally appreciative, and I know how much money and sacrifice you put into it just to get to where you're at this point. So, yeah, I could see where you could have the air let out of your sails, so to speak, for sure.
Well, it's just not that. I don't want to risk losing the stations I'm getting because it's just now,
Yeah, you're growing more.
is happening, and
Right, you're on the brink of really getting even bigger. I mean, look how just from December till now, your listenership has tripled?
More than that,
or even more than that. Jeez.
Then
right.
And I don't know why, but I'm really thankful. And I look at my listeners as my friends. Everybody who sends me an email, and I believe it or not, the biggest fan base I have is out of the UK. Seriously. And there isn't a day I don't get a couple dozen emails from listeners that listen to the replays because the time difference, in the UK and the US.
Yeah, there's like 5 hours difference.
Yeah, they're in bed when I'm doing my show. And, I answer every one of their, emails and answer their questions because, they are just as important to me as anybody else. And without them, I wouldn't have the listenership I have.
Right, you show your appreciation back to your listeners. And I try to do the same thing, and take the time to, even on the live part of the video, I try to take the time to say hello to everybody, or thanks for joining, or thanks for listening, or, you got to show something back, or they're not going to keep coming back to listen,
Well, I do want to take my show to the next level, and it's going to it seems like it's going to the next level quite fast. But you know what? I'm not greedy because the way I set up my network is like all the apps it feeds out to, right? I don't separate I could be a jerk and just have my show go on and then have you guys' shows go on, a different apps or whatever. I make sure that, when I'm heard, and you do your show, people can just go down the players, and it's not all just my show. It's your show, Michael's show, Eric's show, everybody's show.
Yeah, right. And that helps us out because if you didn't do that, it would take us longer to build our listenerships up if you hadn't done that, if you don't do that. You know what I mean? Well, you know that. So I know that. I get that.
Right now, I have Sean Simpson, I believe. I don't have my glasses on, so I apologize.
Yeah, Sean Simpson. He's from Scotland, he said.
Yeah, Scotland, listening to the show. I want to thank you. You also should listen to me on replays at www. I might put a plug in, nightdreamstalkradio.com. That's www.nightdreamstalkradio.com. I just had to get on today because it just irked me off. Somebody saying that they are the host of my show. It just freaked me out. And his excuse was, I didn't realize. I forgot to take it down weeks ago. I didn't even know he had that page up. He was authorized to create a profile page as being a talk show host, with his show on my network, not as the host of my show. God, I can't believe that. And then, I emailed him and he was emailing back and he couldn't understand why I was mad. And I said, you're implying you do my show. You're me. And he couldn't understand that. And, and he kept saying, God bless you and your family. I don't need God bless in my family. I want you to resolve the issue. So finally last night, he finally said, and he got kind of hostile in his email. He said he'll remove it off of Facebook. But then he sends me, and I sent him a message. I said, well, it's up. And then he goes, well, it's going to take 14 days, which is true, to Facebook to take it down. But the whole point is he should have never done anything like that. He should have even consulted with me, on creating his page in the first place, let alone being the host of Night Dreams Talk Radio. Come on.
I wonder why it takes 14 days. I thought you could just delete those or change the name and that would be in.
Oh, yeah. That's what I said. He didn't even have to take it down. He could just took everything off of Night Dreams Talk Radio and eliminated that part and just had his name on it. And I would have not been pissed off. Okay, I just would have let it lie. But
because Yeah, I thought that's all you had to do, because I know I own a page, and I don't know, I own 6 groups. I've changed the names around a little bit. I didn't think you could. I didn't think you had to totally eliminate them, or I thought you could just change the names. But I didn't know Facebook changes their rules and things so much. Who knows?
Well, people, if you don't believe me, just go on there and type Night Dreams Talk radio host Richard Spassoff, and then it comes up. Now, again, if you do that, it's going to say now the Richard Spassoff show is changing radio station. That was not on for the last couple weeks. That only went on last night when I started getting mad. So if he can insert that in, all he had to do is just take off Night Dreams Talk radio host. He could have left his name on there. Why I wouldn't care. But the other thing is he's rated I run all my groups, my personal one for, being a celebrity page. I have my network page. I have my own personal page, which is close to 5,000 people. He's been robbing, off of my friends list also. And not just me. I heard it from a couple other of my loyal listeners that he's been doing the same thing.
Yeah, and one thing about that, eventually, that does come around to catch up with you eventually, because I've been down that road with people doing that to me also. I won't mention any names, but they know all who they are. But yeah, that's happened to me many times, and eventually that's it catches up with them eventually. And I always say it's going to float to the surface eventually. And then what are you going to do? You're going to have to face it. And why put yourself through that heartache, man? Just don't do it. It's not worth it. It just isn't.
Like Liz made a point out, it says you can do a name change, and it would be instant change.
That's what I thought, because I've changed a couple of my groups around names and titles and stuff before. But again, I didn't know, Facebook, they're funny. They change things so much, but I haven't did it in a while. But that's why last time I did, that's what I thought it was. Instantly you could do it,
Well, again, it seems like he's just trying to ride onto my coattail for his own personal gain. And I'll tell you something, not Michael W. Hall, but I do have another attorney that represents me now, because I have an agent, and I already talked to him. And, every day that's up, if I was a real jerk, which I don't plan to do it, because, the guy doesn't have any money, okay? He's on disability. And I would go after his butt. I would sue him, I sure, what, if I went and did that, what Coast to Coast would do to me if I all of a sudden created a Facebook page and said, Coast to Coast, host Gary Anderson, what would happen to me?
You wouldn't be on the air. The closest thing you'd be on the air is be one of them little karaoke things at Walmart's sitting out at the park somewhere talking to about 3 people.
Well, not just that. I would be banned for life on Facebook, because the attorneys would get a hold of Facebook, right? I mean, you just can't do that.
Yeah, you'd be shut down for a long time. Matter of fact, you might not even be allowed to have a little croaky set out at the park there and talk to your Bigfoot. He'd be shut down from that even, probably.
Well, even Karen Banks says the same thing. He could change his name. I don't know what the guy's problem is, but I'm telling you, I'm not going to be taken advantage of anymore. I'm telling you, I don't want to become a jerk. On my network, I do plan eventually to carry a couple more hosts. Do I have to charge somebody, a couple $100 per show to carry their show on my network? Come on, there's a lot of people out there that don't have money. They can't drop $200, $400, $500, $600 a month to have a radio show. And there's a lot of good talent and raw talent out there, like you and Ronald and all these other people out there, and Michael. Michael, studied when he was getting his law degree. He studied broadcasting, but never, I think he did a little thing for a local TV station show at one point, but he never did broadcasting. And I worked with him. And if you listen to the Paranormal Lawyer, he sounds as good as any talk show host.
Yeah, he's smooth. He is smooth.
And it flows. Of course, he's an attorney. So, yes. But you know what? I worked with him to get him to sound like he sounds, and worked out those little bugs at the start. And he's doing fantastic. He has a great listenership. And,
he does.
And just like you did. With you started out with a small listenership. Now your listenership is growing. certainly a hell of a lot more than you were ever had on Facebook Live.
Oh yeah, way much more and a lot better setting. I got a professional studio and not sitting on my couch eating. I'm not even gonna say it, but you know what I'm talking about.
Well,